Hi, I'm Megan Williams. I'm here with Will Pierce and Michael. We are going to talk to you today about the Verse internship. I have a few questions for Michael. We're just going to get to know him, and we'll let my co host Will ask some questions as well. Michael, I wanted to ask you before Persevere, what did your life look like and what were you doing?
Before Persevere, my life was just very simple. I really didn't have any goals in life. I was just pretty much going through the motions. And when I became aware of the Persevere program, that's what kind of piqued my interest because I was previously in school, like in college a long time ago, and I never really considered going back to school. But when I heard about the program, it was something that I was very interested in.
Yeah, that's awesome. What made you decide to join it? Was there some specific moment or was it just kind of gradual?
What kind of made me decide was I remember when I was in college, one guy like, "Dude, you need to get in coding. You need to get in coding," and I kind of just brushed it off. Just 10 years, 15 years passed by, and then I heard about this coding program that actually was free, and that's what piqued my interest because I mean, where can you get free training this day and age? So those two things, I was very interested in doing something different with my life,
Mhm.
and that
Yeah.
offered an opportunity for me to do it. So those are two things in a bundle
So
got
Good.
me
before
to join.
Persevere and the Verse, you had no coding experience whatsoever.
Before Persevere, no, I had no coding experience. Yes.
Cool. Very cool.
Okay. What did you think tech was going to be like before you started, since you didn't have no experience? And how did that compare to reality once you got into web development?
So I remember this movie. There's about a hacker, and that was like the mindset that I had. But once
Mhm.
I heard about what actual Persevere did, I looked it up. And I was like, oh, this is a lot different than hacking. So I was aware, I kind of did my research before I got involved with the program. So I was aware that it's going to be dealing with building websites, and that's a totally different thing than doing the things that hackers do. But still, it wasn't very encouraging because it offered me a pathway to employment and to get in a different field, something that, I would rather be in.
So, before you did this, what was something that you enjoyed before coding?
Before coding, well, I've always enjoyed music. Music
Music?
is, yeah, it's like been a part of my entire life. From the
That
time I was in junior high to now.
I asked that because I know it comes into play later, and I want to touch back on that. So we'll get back to that once we get to the game. I just wanted everyone to be aware of it. All right. Well, let me ask you, can you tell us a little bit more about your internship with the Verse and what was your role there? What did you come in thinking that you were going to do versus what you ended up doing?
Right. So the application process was actually this is a very long application process. I have to think a lot of questions because they asked a lot of questions. They asked scenarios about how what would I do if, in a particular game. They gave me examples, and there was other sections in the application that asked me, well, what areas of interest would you like to be involved in? And one of the areas of interest was web development because that's what I learned at Persevere on how to build websites. So that was obviously one of the things that I checked that I wanted to be considered for. And also there was another check that involved music production.
Hmm.
And I was like, wow, that would be neat to see, to be involved in the music production aspect when I'm building a game or making a website or whatever it may be. So that's something that I actually want to be involved in. So those are the main two things that I picked for the internship.
That's awesome. What was the most challenging part of that internship for you?
The most challenging part was doing something that I've never done and having to do it in a short amount of time.
Hmm.
That was very challenging.
So it's more fast paced for you than you were used to.
Oh, yes, yes. A
Yeah.
lot more fast paced.
It
And
was
like I
for me
said,
too, so I
it
understand
was
that.
Yeah, it's total new material. But at the same time, it was new material, but I kind of had like a foundational knowledge that allowed me
Mhm.
to understand it,
Mhm.
understand the new material, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What was something that you figured out during the internship that you were really proud of yourself for doing?
So the very first, well, actually the second thing. The second thing I started trying to do was build a character, and I tried using Blender to build a character. Well, during Blender, I found that it was kind of difficult to, manipulate the shapes. And so one of my well, actually the mentor, he suggested that I use Phaser. And so Phaser was a framework that I used, and I was able to first start by building a character with just simple shapes. And then as
Mhm.
I got a little bit better, I was able to actually build a real lifelike character. So I was kind of proud with that because, at first I bombed out using Blender. And once I went to Phaser, I kind of just, took step by step because Blender is like really, really advanced. And Phaser is kind
Mhm.
of just a little bit more simplistic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was proud of that. And I was proud of how I was able to embed my music within the game.
Yeah. I would be too. The music was great. You should definitely be
Yeah.
proud of that.
Yeah.
So the tagline for your game is a game where helping others helps you. Where did that idea come from and what made you use that?
The idea came from actually helping someone. So I bought some chips, like a big box of chips for this guy at work because he was paying way too much money for the vending machine. I was like, look, I went to Sam's Club, bought some chips, and I was like, dude, you just buy them for me. I sold it for like 50 cents. And all of a sudden, he just stopped eating the chips. I'm like, you don't want the chips anymore? It's like, no. So I had all these chips, and I ate the chips out that I liked, but there's a whole bunch I didn't like. They just stayed in the trunk of my car. So I'm at the gas station and I'm getting gas, and the homeless guy, he asked for some money for some food. And so I was like, I'm sorry, I don't have any cash on me, but I got some chips. And so it's like, yeah, take them. And so I had, took it back. It's about maybe 10 bags of chips in this box. So I took them all out and just gave them to him. He has them in his hand like this, and he looks at one, he opens it up, the others fall down, and he starts eating the chip. He's like, "Ooh, this is my favorite." And so that's one of the things that I always remember. I still like remember the smile on his face when he said it. It's like, "Ooh, that's my favorite." And so at that moment, I was in the process of trying to figure out, what my game would be about because I couldn't figure it out. I was thinking about it for days.
Mhm.
And that's my aha moment. It's like, I can maybe
Yeah.
make a game off of helping other people. And so that's how it came to be.
So at its core, like Savior is a game about kindness creating more kindness.
Yes, and the
Yeah.
name came from the example of who you are. It's not like this grandiose savior, like you're just someone real big. It just comes in simple deeds, and a person can be a savior just for helping someone in a simple way.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's wonderful. I love the idea behind it. So I noticed actually while playing the game that there were encouraging pop-ups while you play. Was that intentional and what were you thinking when you added those?
So when I first started the game, there was a version where I prevented the person from actually being able to help someone. And the thing that I wanted to do was to make a person reflect on, real life experiences because a lot of times we aren't able to accomplish the things that we want to. A lot of times we're not always able to help a person when we want to. And so I included those encouraging things as a memo, as or a note to a person that, even though you're not able to accomplish something, it doesn't mean you have to feel down. You can keep moving forward, stay positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt it a few times, so I definitely love the encouraging moments it popped up because it made me wanna keep going to try to beat it, so I enjoyed it. So, the reflection message at the end was probably one of my favorite parts of the whole game while playing it, where you can write a message to yourself or someone else. It felt meaningful. Can you tell me more about the idea behind having that in the game?
Yes, so that was essentially, you know, really it all came from just the idea of building a wellness game. Being explained that, the games were designed for people who may be dealing with anxiety or depression or just anything like that. And it also made me think about the different counseling sessions that I've had myself, because I've
Mhm.
suffered with depression, anxiety,
Mhm.
and at the end of the session, one of the things that we always did was to reflect on the things that I've learned and reflect on things that I'm going to do in the future. And so I love to have that platform inside the game to give a person opportunity to reflect on maybe, let's say they're doing something in the game and it made them think about something, and I'm always big on putting your ideas down before you forget them. And
Mhm.
so that gives a person, it's almost like a platform for them to write a note to themselves or even just write a note to someone else if they have their address or phone number and they could just let them know how the act that they did made them feel or
Yeah.
vice versa. They could let them know how good it felt to help that person or they could just make a note to themselves. So that's the thing I wanted to do.
Sometimes you need to release it, so having that place to just get it off your chest, it actually could be a wonderful thing for some people,
Yeah.
kinda like that, write it down on a piece of paper and then burn it, just so you release your feelings. That's kinda what it I took from it when playing it, just getting it out there to release the emotions. Was there anything that you wanted to build or that you plan to build in the game later on? I know you said you've got some more levels and stuff, other versions of it, I guess, that you're going to be adding to it later on.
Yes, so when I created the game, I wanted it to be a game of variety within one platform. So the game that you play is called the Sky World, but I also within the landing page of the game, there's also land, sea, and city. And so what I envisioned was these places to actually be real life, but I didn't realize how difficult that was going to be. So, but I still do have it in the works to complete the land, sea, and city aspects of the game. So I will have like four different worlds a person can go, essentially giving them four different environments to play versus just having one.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to seeing those others. I'm going to let Will ask you some questions before we
Yeah.
close up. I know he wanted to ask you some things about the game specifically.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to zero in on music for a second. Could I ask you to just talk about some of your background on music, like what instruments you played or play, and what kind of music you enjoy playing and making now?
Okay, so I started when I was in junior high school. The very first instrument I played was the baritone. Mr. Clark was my junior high teacher, still remember. And I just went from brass instrument to brass instrument. After baritone, I went to tuba. I had to sit on some books because the thing was so big and I was so small. And I excelled at that. Then I went to trombone, then I went to trumpet. And I kind of just bounced around different instruments until I found the one that I was, liked the most, which was trombone.
Yeah.
And from there, I went to college, played trombone. And after, I just kind of let music go, but it was always like in my mind, in my heart. Then later in life, I started learning how to play the guitar. I've always known how to play the piano, but I started writing songs with the piano, writing songs with the guitar. Yeah, start singing as well, and everything is just kind of come full circle because the times that I played in orchestras when I was younger, I think it had an impact on how I make my music. Because my music, when it comes to me, it comes in my head, and I hear all the parts. So that's kind of a neat thing, I think.
It is neat.
Yeah, that is super cool and very impressive because I don't think I have anything where it's like that where it just pops up in my head. And then as for Savior, what was the process of working with like your chosen framework? How did that look on a day to day? And I guess just more talk about more like the technical aspects of it. How did that framework process work? Because I've only made games in like Twine, so like I'm very new to this, and I'm just curious.
So I first started out doing a lot of research. That's the way I've always learned is to research first, to
Hmm.
learn, then apply. I talked to my mentor, Mike, the other two guys that were in my internship with me. I was looking at how fast they were, developing things. I'm like, golly, how are they doing it so fast? And my mentor explained to me, he's like, well, maybe you should try changing your way you learn. And he suggested that I try, instead of learning then applying, how about I learn and apply at the same time. And so that is something that helped me with the framework. The framework I chose was JavaScript based, and that was a language that I was already familiar with. So it kind of helped me. I didn't have as much of the learning curve to go through, but just
Mm,
the framework itself and learning how to use the document page that offered all the different methods that you can implement within the framework.
yeah,
That was a little bit time consuming, but I was able to work through it.
it's cool. And then just imparting, people want to go play Savior. Where can they find that?
Oh,
Do you know? And if you don't know the link off the top of your head, it's cool because we will put it in the description. But I just
We
wanted to ask.
definitely can.
okay. So it's Savior, and it's actually spelled SAVIOUR dash three THREE dot for sale VERCEL dot app ATP.
Cool.
And like Will said, we can link it if you're okay with that. And we'd love to show everybody else because we think it's awesome. We think it's going to be even better the more that you add to it. So I think people
Yeah,
should see it and see all the
Yeah,
work that you put into it. And, you know, kind of where you started not really knowing how to code and stuff. And then now you're making a whole game. So that's something to be proud of.
absolutely.
yeah. I'm definitely I'm proud of it. I'm proud
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
the whole process.
you should
Oh.
be. It's very cool.
Is there something that you want to tell us or ask us? And
No, I guess if the person were to play my game, I would say just to play it all the way through.
yeah,
At
Cool.
the very end, I got the lyrics and the song and stuff, so it's pretty cool.
good.
I do want to ask just I got to ask Andrew this too, so I want to ask you as well. If someone is going to start coding a game today, they've never had any coding experience, like if you give them one piece of advice, what would it be?
I've never had any experience, what would the advice be? My advice would be is to make sure that's something you want to do. You have to have a purpose. I know a lot of people, they might do things because, other people did it or they think it's cool. And I've seen a lot of people, who've come into coding and, they, they just, they dropped out essentially. So it's definitely something that you have to be willing to do and interested in and just don't give up.
Mm.
Gotcha. So patience and you got to have a clear purpose.
Correct.
All right.
That
Cool.
kind of goes into what I was going to ask you as well. If someone was going to start the Persevere program and they heard your story, what would you want to tell them? You know, like kind of your beginning to the end of making this game. Kind of, I guess it kind of goes along with that, you know, just being ready. Is there something specific you want to speak about, like joining actual Persevere and starting this whole journey of coding?
Well, I will say that Persevere is a organization that wants the people to succeed,
Hmm.
and
Mhm.
they provide them with the resources to do so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I
Cool.
appreciate that. Where are you now and what are you working towards? Whether it's the game, you know, or something in your life, is there something big and exciting? Or are you just, you know, going to continue building this game with your music and plugging that music in there for everyone to hear?
Well, where I'm at now, I still work a regular job,
Yeah.
but during the time that I'm not working, I'm working on Coursera, and I'm working on the game too. And so I'm just trying to better my skills so I can become employable in the future.
Yeah.
So long term, are you wanting to get back into web development or, you know, something like that later on in life?
Definitely.
Definitely. Okay. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it and I can't wait to see what you build next. And I hope you share it with us and maybe we can interview again sometime and learn more about the next levels of the game.
Yeah.
All
That'd be
right.
awesome.
Awesome.
We appreciate you sitting down with us and letting us talk about your game. And we can't wait to host it on our socials and let everyone else get to know you and get to know more about the Verse internship and Persevere as a whole.
Yeah. Thank you for your time, Michael.
You're welcome.
At Persevere, we believe transformation is possible when people are given the tools, training, and support to build a better future. Whether you are an employer, donor, volunteer, or a community partner, you can be a part of that change. Please visit perseverenow.org to get involved today.